Would you be surprised if I told you that you was actually paying people to deceive you and teach you things subconsciously that you didn't agree with? That's what we're going to cover on today's show. So let's get started. Would you be surprised if I told you that you was actually... Hey everyone, welcome to In Thy Word Live. We come to you every single Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we also produce videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're interested in actually learning more about the Bible and actually learning how to actually grow as a Christian, then consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell notification, as you can see on screen. All right. So for those of you joining us live, thanks for tuning in. And those of you as well that are going to join us on the replay, if you're interested in using a super chat, as that's what you're familiar with, we don't actually currently have that. So you can use the third link in the description box below, which will give you a basic similar package. So today's show is going to be something really interesting. We're going to be talking about entertainment and how the things we watch, the effect they actually have on how we think to a certain degree, and obviously even more powerful, not beyond what we think, is actually what we do. Okay, so today's show is brought to you by howtowalkinthespirit.com, and today you can get free access to a copy of my book Walk in the Spirit. So if you want to get a copy of my book Walk in the Spirit, all you have to do is actually head on over to howtowalkinthespirit.com/book, and you can get instant access to a free copy of my book. So yeah, let's get into today's show. It's, like I said, something really powerful for us to get into today, and I think it's going to be a really interesting one. So just give me a second to make sure everything's working properly, and we're going to get into it and get straight into the content. All right, everything seems to be working properly. Couple of things before we start. Okay, so like last week, we started a new series. Basically, it's titled "For the Love of Money." Basically, the love of money is the root of all evil. That's what we're looking at. It's based on 1 Timothy 6:10. You can see it down below right here. I've got the key verse, and the reason I did that is because I want you to be mindful of the fact that why we're doing this. We're going to be talking about different topics. Last week was the first episode in this series. We covered the topic of abortion. It's a really sensitive subject, to be honest. I remember talking to my wife about it during the week after, and just saying to her, you know what, it felt a bit uncomfortable for me talking about it, etc., and things along those lines. But we're starting a new theme. We're going to be touching different topics, different industries. Last week was abortion. This week we're going to be looking at entertainment. Okay, and we're going to get into loads of insights into the entertainment. You may think you know some of the things we're going to cover, certain topics. Some of those might be right, but there's going to be other parts that, looking into this and doing the research, it kind of broadened my horizon as well, to kind of think about entertainment as a full spectrum. So just bear that in mind as well. Okay, so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be focusing on this theme of "For the love of money is the root of all evil," based on 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 10. And the powerful thing about this is, the reason we're looking at different industries is because it highlights that this one component, this drive for money, and we're looking at how it's affecting all of these different industries. And that's the first layer. The second layer, which is even more important, is how all of these industries actually submerge together and create like sort of like a power sequence that can basically work on in the strongest capabilities. So we're going to see that. So every week we're going to focus on one topic, and then after, maybe I haven't thought about this, but maybe we'll do a summary, just piecing each part into the puzzle and showing you how they all link together. Okay, so just like last week I started the show talking about how I'm not an expert in abortion. We're going to be talking about entertainment. I've already kind of alluded to certain things already in today's show. I'm not an expert at this either. Okay, so I want you to understand that, because it's obviously really important. Okay, now this week I'm I've got more insight. And one thing I'll say as well is I'm obviously a lot of the things we're going to cover in today's show, I've experienced myself, or I've got some sort of at least secondhand knowledge into some of these things. So that obviously gives me a good advantage. Okay, but I wrote a couple of things down first and foremost. The first thing is we're going to be talking about entertainment. We're going to be talking about things we watch, things we listen to, games we play, all of this different kind of stuff. And the first thing that you need to understand is, look, this isn't a show today. This isn't me coming to you saying, look, don't watch TV, don't watch movies, don't listen to music, don't play games, etc. Okay, if I was going to come with a blanket statement like that, I'll just say it pretty much early on and then go into the content, go into the material. So it's not one of those ones today. Okay, we're not focusing on it from that standpoint. As last week, I mentioned it loads of times. I'll mention it probably loads of times today and loads of times probably going forward. This is to challenge you to dig deeper into these things, to challenge you to look into these things deeper for yourself, because ultimately, a lot of the time, when one looks into something for themselves and gets their own realization, that's when the most impact can actually happen. So I'm not here to tell you don't play TV shows anymore in your house, or don't watch movies, or don't play games. It's not that. Okay, I'll deliver the content. You can kind of make your own decision, but I'm always focused on you getting better. And part of getting better a lot of the time is searching and diving deep into the things that you're doing, the things that you believe, and the things that obviously you're encouraging other people to do as well. All right. The second thing I highlighted is that, look, some of the things we're going to talk about, I've watched. Okay, I've watched some of these things before that I'm going to mention. I have a games console. We're going to talk about computer games for a little bit. I've got a game console today, and we'll get into more detail about that as well. And um, if I haven't personally listened or played some of this stuff, I have people in close proximity to me that may have watched some of this stuff, that may play some of these games, etc., etc., etc. And that also gave me certain additional benefits as well, because I could ask different people about different things, and I'll get into that as well in today's show as well. All right. So the third thing I put here is, look, this isn't kind of similar to the point one, but this isn't to condemn anyone. Okay, my sole goal is to challenge you to seek more information. Okay, that's the sole goal of this show. It's the sole goal of pretty much a lot of the stuff that I do on this channel. It's all about you developing, you seeking and searching for more insights and more information. All right. Okay, so let's see. All right, so look, let's switch it up here and get into some of the data. Okay, now this isn't again gonna be a complete overview. Okay, kind of pinpoints into the point I just made and the first point as well. It's like it's not just a widespread. This is surface level and just a little bit under the tip of the iceberg, so you can jump in as well and get deeper. So all of these statistics aren't going to be complete statistics over all of this different stuff, but they're things to whet your appetite. All right, so one of the things I found which I thought was really interesting, this is based on just the US, okay, but it gives, this piece of data gives us some context into global numbers. And I generally kind of saw this was a constant number I continue to see. Okay, and this is just the fact that the US media and entertainment, okay, M&E industry is the largest in the world. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on the US industry, because it's the largest. Another reason is because I know many of my viewers are from the US. So that's another reason. A third reason is because in a lot of the things in the Western world, the US kind of sets the pace and then other things come out after. Okay, so that's why it's another good reason to focus on this US data. Okay, but it basically tells us that, look, the US industry, media and entertainment, is a 717 billion, okay, billion with a B, industry. Okay, so every single year you can expect the entertainment industry to pull in over 700 billion. Okay, and this basically represents a third of the global media and entertainment industry. So just for those of you that aren't great at maths, or maths wasn't your favorite subject, you don't know what that kind of means, a simple way to do this is you just multiply 717 billion times 3. Okay, and if you do that, you're going to get a number just under, okay, just under 3 trillion. You're going to get about 2.6, 2.7 trillion dollars. Okay, every single year is the global um, not profit, revenue that comes in through media and entertainment. Now, last week we talked about abortion. I mentioned that already, and if memory serves me correctly, that was a $26 billion yearly industry. Okay, so we're talking about certain figures then and how much money it basically is on a world scale. This is even bigger. Okay, and it makes sense because um, ultimately abortion is only for, right from the get-go, half of the population. Okay, if you just want to round up or round down in regards to men and women. Okay, half of the population men, half of the population's women. I think in fact there's a little bit more women on the planet than men on the planet, but just to do this loosely, so that's only hitting half of the audience, half of the world's audience, abortion. Now on top of that, you're only generally going to be dealing with ladies, females of a certain age. Okay, on the from the bottom end and from the top end. So you think about it like that, the numbers are already going to be skewed. And I don't want to get too technical, but this is an industry, media and entertainment, that hits everybody. Okay, kids, babies, young children, toddlers, whatever, adolescents, young adults, elderly, etc. It hits every single person in the world, one shape or form. It does this. Okay, so this is really important to understand. This is a really lucrative industry, and this is why some of the things we're going to get into, you start to understand why this is such a serious business, basically, and why the people in these different businesses potentially do certain things to continue to get you to come back to this industry because it's so lucrative. Okay, and again, I want you to continually remember this verse here, because this is the root of everything that we're doing in regards to this series, and it's really important you continue to understand that and have that in your mind, because everything will link back to this. Okay, so this is a third of the global economy in regards to media and entertainment. You're going to get a number about just under 3 trillion. It's basically going to be about 2.6, 2.7 trillion dollars every single year. Now look, this includes motion pictures, so we're talking about stuff like movies, TV programs, commercials, streaming content, so your Netflixes, Hulu, Roku, all of those different kind of things, Rakuten, Amazon Prime, etc. Okay, you're talking about music, so all of the popular musicians out there, musicians you listen to, musicians I listen to, all of the musicians. Okay, this comes under it. And we're talking about this was some of the stuff that actually audio recordings. We're talking about broadcasts like TVs, radio, all that kind of stuff. Some of this now, book publishing was something that when I read it kind of made sense, but I didn't really think about it when I was actually first putting this together. But people that are writing books, okay, all these different kind of books, bestseller list in health, in wealth, all these different kind of things is all part of this whole industry. Okay, and video games, and there's some ancillary and services and products, so just different stuff as well. Okay, and it ends basically from this little the end of the snippet that I got from this source here is that this is only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, and they expect in the next couple of years it's going to get to 825 billion. Okay, and if the US continues to be to hold a third of the global scale of media and entertainment, then you're looking at over pretty much, okay, potentially 3 trillion hitting it, etc. Okay, so that's something really powerful for you to consider as well. All right, so this is really interesting for loads of different reasons. We've talked already about how America sets the pace in a lot of things for the Western world. They're sort of the leaders of the pack, so to speak, and everyone kind of follows them. Behind them, all of these different categories, like I said, books was something that I looked at and I was like, wow, this even comes under it as well, which is actually really kind of interesting as well. Okay, now you've been able to see it already, but I basically put this up again, excuse me, because I think this is really important for you to understand. Okay, so why are we talking about this? Well, we're talking about this because if you look at just a couple of, I've got these just basic definitions of entertainment, okay, just from the internet. I didn't want to get anything technical, just so you can see it and it's something you can just easily relate to and understand. Okay, and what does it say? It says entertainment is the action of providing or being provided with amusement or enjoyment. Now, before we get to the next definition, the reason I'm stopping here first is because that definition, this is an opportunity to be amused or to enjoy yourself. Okay, I don't personally believe, just thinking about this very loosely, there's anything wrong with that. Okay, if you want to watch something that can bring you amusement and enjoyment and bring ultimately laughter and fun, that by itself shouldn't do harm. The Bible even talks about laughter and joy being a good thing for the body and the soul, etc. Okay, but now when we get into the second definition, this is where the problem starts to arise. And we can see here, what does it say? It says the action of providing or being provided with amusement or enjoyment, or a form, and I underlined this because this is the key part, a form of activity that holds the attention and interest of an audience or gives pleasure and delight. So it kind of wraps up the same way under the same kind of theme and umbrella of the first definition. But I underlined the key part, which I think is really vital to the things we're talking about today. Why? Because entertainment can be a form of activity that holds your attention. Okay, so we're talking about people can play things to you, or that you can watch, or that you can listen to, or you can read, okay, which are holding your attention. And because we're dealing with something under that category, we now get into things that we're not going to get too deep into, stuff like mind control and all those kind of things. But if something can hold your attention, then that thing has the power to influence you, okay, in various different ways. Because if I shone a light right now, okay, into your eyes, okay, you might for a little while look at it and be like, what is that? Wow, what is that? And at the same time, because I'm putting something up here, okay, I could have been doing something down here, which is, I could be taking something from you, for example. Okay, I could be suggesting something to you down here that subconsciously you can see, because our minds and our eyes are powerful, our bodies are powerful, but consciously you won't be consciously aware of what's actually going on. And this is why it gets powerful, because as we dive into some of this stuff, you'll start to see that everyone has an agenda. Okay, there's gonna be no one on the planet that doesn't have an agenda. Okay, it doesn't mean every agenda is negative, but everyone has an agenda. I've outlined my agenda several times already in the show today, and what we've only been going for less than 20 minutes. I've said it over and over again. One of the main things that I want to do is encourage you to dig deeper, to challenge yourself, to search into these things. Okay, because I believe if you search into these things, you'll realize certain things. Okay, and if you realize certain things, you can make certain decisions. I've told you. Okay, it's not a secret. The difference between what I'm doing today and what a lot of other people are doing is they won't tell you their agenda. Okay, they'll give you something, and we'll get into this, but the power of misdirection. Okay, they always say this. If you ever watched any sort of illusion show, TV show, or performance, or magic performance, they always say it. They won't always necessarily give you the trick or the illusion away, but they'll always tell you, look, the performer is doing something that is taking your attention away, and where your attention goes one way, the other way is where the trick is actually happening. But because your conscious is going one way and is focused on this, your subconscious, which is the more powerful part of your brain ultimately, is actually taking these things in and is being suggested things. Okay, a couple years ago, a movie came out, very popular movie. You probably watched it before, you've heard about it. A movie called Inception. Okay, it may not be like accurate in the sense that this is how life is per se, but the kind of basic thinking behind it, okay, is legitimate. Because it was, if you think about it, if you dare boil it down to the bare bones, the film is about suggestion. Okay, they wanted to suggest something to someone in order for them to now take it in and then follow through with the action. Okay, and it was all about going deeper and deeper into someone's subconscious, etc. And that is real. Okay, if I can do something to you, if I can get you to do something without you knowing I'm doing it, that's really powerful. And this is what a lot of the stuff is. Okay, this is why this definition is very important. All right, so let's do this. We're going to look at movies. Okay, so what you can see here, um, this is data I got. This is basically, we're looking at movies to start, and this is the highest grossing films from this year. Now, bear in mind, the year isn't out, so this is the year to today, and likely this is probably up until probably July, maybe it could potentially be August. Okay, but what we can see here, if I remember correctly, this was a list of about maybe about more than 10 films. It might have been about 50 different films. Okay, and I just basically snippeted the first five. What I basically did is I just took the screenshot of all the films this year that have grossed over $1 billion, if I remember correctly, worldwide. Okay, so you can see we've got Avengers. There was only one more that was number 6 that was over $1 billion, if I remember correctly. That was Toy Story that I took out of this. I actually wanted to add it in. I just felt led to not to put it in, but it all comes under the same umbrella, under the two categories we're going to talk about when we get into this data. Okay, but you can see it. So you've got the first 5 on this list here. You've got all of the films. Probably they're all popular films first and foremost. They may be all films you've watched. Me personally, I haven't watched any of these films. To give you some kind of context, I didn't watch Aladdin. Okay, I just didn't watch it. Spider-Man I didn't watch. Captain Marvel I didn't watch. The Lion King. A couple people wanted to actually take my daughter to watch it. She didn't actually end up going to watch it. I just didn't ultimately want her to watch it. And Avengers, there was discussion on different times where me and my wife were actually going to go and watch it, but it basically turned out in the end we didn't go to watch it basically. So I haven't watched any of these 5 movies personally. Okay, just full disclosure. But the powerful thing about this stuff is, obviously, like I've said already, I know certain people have watched all of these movies. I know some people watch some of these movies. I've done different research at different times about some of this stuff, and I'll talk about some of that stuff as well in today's show. Okay, but you can see here the first category is the movie. The first category of figures is the worldwide box office. This is how much money it made worldwide. Okay, then you've got the domestic, which is just what it did in this country. Okay, I assume these are all going to be in US anyway. And then you have international, okay, which is everywhere other than the country it was first premiered in, which is, I guess, likely US for all of these films. Okay, then you put that together and you get the first category, which is the worldwide box office. So you can see let's start from the bottom. So Aladdin did just over $1 billion. Spider-Man did just over 1.1 billion. Captain Marvel did just over 1.1 billion as well. Lion King, which is actually crazy because this only came out a couple of months ago, if I remember correctly, and this has nearly done 1.5 billion. And the big mover this year, highly publicized movie, Avengers Endgame, which nearly done 3 billion worldwide. Okay, broke a lot of the movie records, and is really popular. Okay, so we've talked about the wide scale of all of the entertainment, but the reason I honed in on this is because movies is a big thing that a lot of us watch. Okay, we all watch different kind of movies, and I want to continue to say this. This is content that anyone can watch, but at the end of the day, my audience is a Christian audience. Okay, so I'm going to say certain things that may not necessarily apply to you if you're not a Christian. Okay, but if you're a Christian, this is the main reason why I'm doing this. So I thought I'd just put it out there. So this is the numbers. Maybe we might come back to this at some point in the future, but if you look at what we're going to focus on next, why is this important? Okay, again, remember, right here, up here, you can see the definition, entertainment. I want you to focus constantly on the scripture, and I want you to constantly focus on this thing right here. These are the two important things, because the scripture says the love of money, for the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay, so that hunger that desire, that innate desire to strive and to always acquire more is the root of all evil. Why? Because it will make you do things that you're not supposed to do. Okay, wanting more than you should have is ultimately the thing that goes all the way back to Lucifer. Okay, he wanted something that wasn't his. He was being covetous. Okay, and it's all that desire and that greed and that game for more. It's the same thing Paul's talking about here in 1 Timothy 6, chapter 10. And he talks about how that love of money is the root of all evil. And he says, while some coveted, so while some of those people were in deep desire for it, they erred, okay, they swayed away from the faith, okay, and they pierced themselves with many sorrows, okay. Money will make you do crazy things. It will put you into different minds. Like, making the money here on earth is going to feel great, okay, don't get me wrong. You make some money and you feel, you feel powerful. But if that's the end of your substance, okay, yes, it's going to feel great in a lot of cases right now, but that's going to end at a certain point, okay. So these are the movies. Why is this important? Because these are forms of activity, as the description says, the second one, that holds the attention. And why is this significant? Because firstly, to break this down, we break this down into two categories, okay. Number one, if you notice these films here, okay, you've got Avengers, you've got Captain Marvel, and you've got Spider-Man, okay. Firstly, they're three superhero movies, okay, so you're dealing with a wide audience, okay. Notice that a lot of these films, I don't think any of these films are 18, okay. Generally, a lot of these films are going to be probably like a 12 or a PG. Excuse me. They may have some graphic stuff in it, I mean, like blatantly graphic stuff like violence, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be an 18 because they want the masses to see it. Okay, and that's really vital to what we're talking about. Okay, then the other ones are The Lion King and Aladdin. Okay, they're the other two. So kids films. Okay, so can you see the constant theme? Okay, all of these films, it's like take The Lion King and Aladdin out of it. Those are just clear and uncut kids films. So you've got from kids upwards that can watch these films, and obviously kids can't go to the cinemas by themselves. Parents are obviously going to have to take them. Okay, so everyone's going to watch those films. The other films are superhero films, and kids love superheroes. Kids get engrafted into superheroes from a young age as well. So they're another kind of film that their parent wouldn't feel the most defensive against taking their kids to watch those films. So notice that as well. Okay, all of this stuff, just if you can understand basic just business principles, the only basic thing you need to really understand about business is a business wants to make money from a customer, and a way that they'll do that, the exchange is we provide you with something and you give us something back. Okay, we provide you with entertainment in this scenario, which is amusement or enjoyment. Okay, and in return you give us your money. This is why I said at the beginning of the show to start it. Okay, would you be surprised, would you be shocked if I told you that you're paying people to deceive you and to lie to you and to get you to do things and suggest things to you that you don't believe? Okay, imagine if I told you that you've been actually paying people to work against, to speak against the things you believe in. You might think, well, what are you talking about? No, that's not true. But as we start breaking this stuff down, as you dive deeper into some of the things you watch, you'll see. Okay, because as a Christian, some of these things are really powerful. Okay, so we're dealing with loads of films that loads of a wide audience can reach. It can watch. Remember, again, we talked at the beginning of this video. Last week was abortion. Okay, it only references a certain amount of women in the world. This is entertainment. This is everyone. TV shows, movies, books, streaming, radio, music, broadcast, all of this different stuff. It's hitting every single person. When I was thinking about this and doing the research, I was saying to myself, like, wow, this is something that, like, it basically is life in a lot of ways. Okay, this is life for a lot of people. It's their whole life in regards to the Western world, not so much the Eastern world, because a lot of those places are living under different lifestyles and different customs. Okay, it's not necessarily all centered around TV, even though it's becoming a lot more as time goes on. Okay, so all of these films are for kids and kid friendly in one way or another. That's a key to this thing here. Okay, now we know this. Okay, if everyone's going to be watching this, why is this significant? Well, entertainment can be a form of um, a form of activity that holds your attention. Now let's talk about Avengers first. Okay, we're not going to go through all of these movies, but I picked out Avengers first because I guess I have to give it the respect of it being the biggest grossing seller this year. Okay, so why does Avengers have any significance? Why should you be wary, or why should you be cautious about watching the Avengers as a Christian? Okay, well, you should be cautious anyway if you're not a Christian. We'll talk about that even more, but as a Christian specifically, that's my audience. Okay, well, I don't know if you know this, but it's actually funny. Just before I say this, we actually done a fellowship. We had a fellowship a couple of weeks ago. We call it Fellowship Friday, and what we actually did is we watched this documentary. Basically, I'll talk a bit about it in a minute, and it was basically talking about how um, all of the Marvel movies and the Christian undertones within it. And you'd be thinking, what Christian undertones? What are we talking about? And it was interesting. I had actually watched it before, okay, but it was interesting to see and hear different people's reactions and responses to the things were actually going on. We had some people that were kind of like, um, no, like I've watched this, but it don't affect me. We had different people that were just completely shocked. Oh my days, I never saw this. We had some people that may have been like, this doesn't affect me, but by the end of it, it was like, oh wow, you know what? I never realized that. I never saw that, and this is what we're talking about. Okay, so let's talk about Avengers, and this really applies to Marvel movies as a whole. And remember, okay, three remember, three of those top five movies, okay, this year have been Marvel movies, okay, so just bear that in mind, okay. So now, Marvel as a whole, Avengers. Did you know that there's multiple biblical references throughout all of these Marvel movies? Now, you may say Israel, but loads of different movies and TV shows have biblical representation in them, and you're right, okay, that's true. Loads of TV shows, music, all of this different kind of stuff. Books have biblical applications. The reason we're focusing on these ones largely is because these are the biggest selling. Okay, so these are things that these are things that people are watching most, and this is why it's significant, because the things that people watch most are the things that can have potentially the most influence on people, especially if if like everyone is kind of speaking about something, you can kind of get some key. We really, the world we live in, we have a really sheepish mentality, and being a sheep isn't necessarily always bad, but it can lead you in the wrong way if you're obviously following the wrong thing. Okay, so there's multiple biblical representations and applications to and throughout Marvel films, Avengers movies, etc. And this is interesting because as a Christian, you should know this. Because once I've told you this, the real question you should be asking yourself is, okay, Israel, you're telling me that there's loads of biblical references in these Marvel movies and in Avenger films and all this kind of stuff. Okay. The question you should be asking is, what biblical references? Okay. What biblical applications? What are you talking about? Okay. Now, instead of going to this in loads of detail, okay, myself, again, like I said, it's about to challenge you. Okay, so you have to go and do some powerful research. But just give me a second, and I want to show you something quickly. Okay, this is something that's really powerful. I referenced this previously. We watched a documentary. I believe their channel's Little Light Studios. They done a whole documentary on just 10 years of Marvel films, going through all of this different stuff. Okay, and the thing you can see on screen right now is I believe if I remember correctly, this is from one of the Iron Man movies. Okay, and this is one of the bad guys in one of these movies, in the Iron Man movie. And in the documentary, they basically show this scene. The guy pauses it and he basically says, look, if you look at the guy's cape, you can see on his cape it basically says redeemed through blood, okay, or redeemed with blood. And as a Christian, you should be thinking to yourself, okay, this is a bad guy, but on his kind of like a tie, it says he's redeemed through blood. Okay, and you should be saying to yourself, are the bad people redeemed through blood? We are Christians. Do we see ourselves as bad people in that regard? No. Okay. Um, everyone in the world is a sinner. Okay. We believe we've been saved by the blood sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Okay, his blood that was shed on the cross saves us. Okay, we believe in that atonement, and that's what gets us to heaven. Okay, so if I was redeemed through blood, why? You should be asking yourself, why is the bad guy in this film wearing this thing that says redeemed through blood? As in, the connotation is negative, and that's something for you to think about. You may not have noticed this. It probably happened so quickly on screen in the movie that you're probably thinking to yourself, you probably didn't ever see it consciously. But again, subconsciously, because your conscious mind is giving it, remember the definition up here, okay? I'm all over the place. Up here, a form of activity that can hold your attention, because your conscious mind is giving its attention to this superhero movie that's going, and there's loads of graphics and CGI and all this stuff that makes it look good. These are the kind of things, okay, that are going into the subconscious, okay, that these bad people that want to destroy the world are redeemed through blood. Okay, so think about it from that regard. Okay, that's something that's really powerful. And next, we're gonna look at the Lion King. Okay, so we're only gonna focus on the two top movies here. And if you think about how I kind of broke it down, we kind of got the movies, the Marvel movies, which are in the top 5, which are kind of like younger to adult. Okay, everyone, like most of the older population will watch this. Okay, then we've got the kids movies, which are films that the kids will watch. Okay, and obviously the parents will take the kids, especially if you think about these two movies, this is why this is really powerful. Okay, The Lion King and Aladdin were movies that were made 20, 25 years ago, etc. Why is that important? Because most of the middle-aged people today growing up, okay, I'm including this, and you'll hear about that more in a second. I watched The Lion King as a child. I watched Aladdin as a child. Okay, my older brother, he's only my nearest older brother, he's only a couple years older than me. He was watching this stuff as a child. Okay, my older brother, my other older brothers, they may have not been like young kids, children, the way I was and my nearest older brother were, but we were watching these things as kids. Okay, so now we're middle aged. Okay, in that particular region, we have all of those memories. The Lion King, I won't mention it now. I'll say it in a second. Okay, I'll say it in a minute. We have all these memories of watching these things as a kid. So what is the majority of people going to do when they hear that the new Lion King movie is coming out, the remake, and the remake of Aladdin's coming out? Most of them just naturally are going to go and watch the movie because we watched it before as kids. We've got all of these bubbly memories in our minds and our hearts. We want those again because it's a way for us to get back to a place that we know that was happy, okay, when we was a child. What are most of us that have kids going to do? Well, I had this great experience, these great memories with these films. I want my kid to have those same experiences, okay? Because that's naturally, we want to give our kids things that are good, okay? Things that we feel are good. And if this is part of our good childhood memory, um, we want to reciprocate that, okay? Now, I want to get into some other stuff. I had a conversation with one of my friends. I believe it was when I linked up with my best friend like a week ago. I mentioned it last week, but there was a conversation where I was talking about how the good memories we had with certain foods, and this isn't a week about food, so I'm foreshadowing. In a future week, we'll talk about this, and I'll get into the juicy details of some of these stories. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well, and obviously make sure you're joining us week by week on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, but we have these good memories with these films. So notice the superhero films as well. Same thing applies. Okay, but more so with these kids films, because we were young and we were so impressionable. They have such a real impact on us. Not as much. They have much more impact than the superhero films that we can kind of watch as young and then grow up and not and kind of drift out. But these kind of things are the ones that get us really young and really follow through. And again, I mentioned this already in little references with regards to certain foods. We'll talk about that in future shows as well. Okay, but The Lion King. Let's get into this a bit more specific. So, full disclosure. Okay, I've talked about it a little bit already. I wanted to wait a little bit so I can really just collect my thoughts and say this properly. Okay, let me just take a quick drink of water. All right. So, full disclosure. The Lion King for me was it was easily okay, probably the most memorable um kids movie as a child for me personally. Okay, love Lion King. Um, I have, and I didn't even think about this until just now as I said it, and I remembered it now. Okay, I can literally look at over right now and see I've got the Lion King, one, two, and three if I remember correctly. I can't remember if I actually bought the Lion King for myself, but I know for a fact as well someone bought um, the Lion King set for my daughter. Okay, a couple of years ago. So one way or another, we've got the Lion King. Okay, the original. And I remember when I was young, um, exactly what we've explained already in today's show. I remember saying this to my wife and different people's, and the saying to myself, my daughter, she has to watch Lion King. I made sure I put it on for a couple of different times. Just so why was I doing that? Because I think back to the Lion King and I think back to the special moments I had as a kid. This was one of my favorite movies growing up. I want my child to think about this in 20 years and think, oh, you know what, this was a great thing. It's just because just naturally that's how we are. This is how giving ourselves to these different kind of things can have impact on us. Okay, a decision I made or a decision that was made for me, okay, ultimately 20, 30, whatever years ago, um, today still has impact because I watched a movie 20 plus years ago and that film still has interest inside me that is cashing in. Okay, so today the Lion King comes out of a new movie. I take my kids, theoretically speaking, to go and watch the Lion King. Now they've made money from me as a young child. Now they're making money from my child. And what do you think she's gonna do with her child in 30 years as the theme continues? Now you can start to see how little things today can have big impact tomorrow. Okay. Now again, at the time when I was watching this as a young child, I didn't have any idea about any of the stuff we're about to talk about next. But why would you know as a young child, as a 5, 6, 7 year old, however old I was at the time? Why would you know these things? Okay, so it's really important. So it's been documented heavily over the last probably 10 years. Okay, the subliminal messaging, the graphic subliminal messaging in Lion King posters, movies, all of this different kind of stuff. Okay, now I didn't want to show any of the things because some of them are quite graphic, and although I'm assuming this is an older audience, I don't want to encourage anyone to look at things that might necessarily cause them to have certain thoughts and certain thinking. Okay, so that's the reason why I didn't put any of these things up. Okay, but be prayerful, do your research if you feel led to do it. But it was heavily documented over the last 10 years, really, some of this hidden stuff. Now, some of the stuff they denied, etc. Some of the stuff I'm pretty sure they confessed to and said, okay, you know what, this was a mistake. You'll get conflicting data from different people. I remember a couple of years ago hearing something about, yeah, they came out and said, you know what, it was some of the designers that made mistakes basically. Other things I read even today was talking, or yesterday was talking about how it didn't say these things, it was different things, or it didn't show these things. But again, go and do the research. This is what it's all about, challenging you to move forward. Okay, so we're not even on the latest one today, but the initial one. The initial one that I've said had so many different profound effects on me, got me to get my daughter to watch it a few years ago, 3, 4 years ago when she was younger. She's 6 now, about to be 7 in a couple of months. But she got that. Another film we're not going to talk about this, but Beauty and the Beast. Okay, this was The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast are probably my two favorite kids movies. Now, The Lion King was just because it's The Lion King. Okay, if anyone who's watched The Lion King as a child knows what I'm talking about. The Beauty and the Beast, on the other hand, was different because it was crazy because the Beauty and the Beast scared me. The Beast in the movie scared me. Excuse me. But at the same time, it was like the fact that he's a beast and then he changes and then all of that is just there was something about that it feels good. Okay, it's almost like this completely ugly guy gets this beautiful girl. It's like it's a feel good story. But you know the only problem with that is maybe you won't understand this as a child, but the only problem with that is he's a beast. Okay, and the Bible's clear about this stuff about bestiality. Even if he turns into a human, okay, it turns into a man, or he was a man before that turns into a beast, however you want to look at it, the woman is kissing a beast and then he changes. So it's like it's a subtle, well, it's not really subtle because it's live and direct in front of you, but all of the story behind it kind of, again, giving our consciousness to this thing, but our subconscious is taking in these powerful suggestions that they're giving us, okay, that oh, bestiality is okay, etc. These are some of the things you need to think about. It was only years later, okay, it was probably about maybe 8 years ago, maybe 8-9 years ago. I remember thinking, I was like, probably thinking about my childhood and this different stuff, and I was like, wow, Beauty and the Beast is about a woman ultimately and the beast, okay, that get together, okay, crazy. But as a kid, we was watching this thinking, oh, this is some great thing. So when you get older, these things have already been implanted in your mind. So you kind of just think, well, this is just okay, okay. And these are subtle things, subtle suggestions in your mind that people aren't necessarily going to realize. That's something for you to consider. All right. So that's the initial Lion King. Give me a second. Let's do this next, okay? Why did I give you this backdrop of the Lion King initially? Because I wanted you to identify. I wanted to get personal with you and realize, like, look, I've been invested in some of this stuff. Okay, some of the stuff, the investments I've made into this stuff is still having effect in my life or in recent life as a 3-4 years ago. Okay, so I want you to see that correlation. Okay, I'm not saying this from a standpoint that, oh, I'm looking down on everyone that's watching this or will watch this in the future and say, oh, you're just making all of these mistakes, because as much as I can say someone else made these mistakes, I've made these mistakes. I've potentially still making these mistakes in different ways. Okay, and this is why it's good to challenge yourself and grow, because you learn and you can get better. Okay, this is why it's important, because I want you to see both sides of the Lion King. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, the only thing we're going to talk about in regard to this new film, okay, we're going to talk about Beyonce in this. So this is really interesting because Beyonce plays a character in the movie. I believe she plays Nala, if I remember correctly. That's Simba's wife. Okay, it's the lioness, and it's really powerful because she has loads of different songs. She actually made an album, okay, to kind of go along with the song. And there are rumors and stuff published that it didn't do so well, but if you think about the film, okay, so you've got loads of people that watch the first film, they now come to watch the second film. Now Beyonce's in it. She's obviously an extremely popular female musician, probably one of the most popular, probably up there with Madonna and whoever I don't even know, but heavily popular female musician, and she's on this, so she's obviously her pull can pull more people into this movie. And these are some of the lyrics to one of the songs that's on her album, this Lion King album. Okay, and I want you to just see, it's only a couple of lines, okay, down. Okay, this is just how the song starts, and a couple of lines into the song, the theme of the song seems to be about, look, you're more important than things, than what you think you are potentially. Like, you're bigger than what you see, what people tell you are. And a couple of lines down, as you can see on the screen, what does it say? Okay, she says you're a part of something bigger. You're a part of something way bigger. You're not just a speck in the universe. And this is where it gets really key. Okay, think about this. You're a Christian. Okay, you're reading these lyrics, and what does she say next? She says, "You're not just some words in a Bible verse." So what is she saying? She's, in one shape or form, belittling what the Bible is. Okay, you're bigger than just what the Bible says. Oh man, you're bigger than just some words in a Bible verse. Okay, you're bigger than that. Okay, I'm not gonna say she's saying you're bigger than the Bible. That can be inferred. But what does she say next? She says you are the living word. Now, I'm going to give you a reference. Just write this down. Hebrews 4 verse 12. Okay, and it took. I won't even reference it anyway. But go and read that in your spare time. But the fact of the matter is, as a Christian, we are not the living word. Okay, and in order for you to think this kind of stuff, is taking these things but putting them backwards. There's been loads of stuff documented about music. You can look up G. Craig Lewis from stuff he's done years ago. He's talked a lot about this kind of stuff and just the hidden messages in music, the actual lyrics, the actual covers, the music videos, all this. There's loads of stuff that's been documented about this stuff. He isn't the only one. There's loads of people out there that have done this kind of stuff. But think about this, okay? So you're taking your child to watch The Lion King, and one of the main characters in the movie, okay, is singing songs like this, okay, to your kids. So when your child grows up, okay, you've been trying to raise your child as a Christian, and then not long down the line, your child starts saying, well, look, I'm bigger than this stuff, okay? You understand that these are where some of the roots came from, because we allowed ourselves to have the enjoyment, which is what we want. We want to be entertained, we want to have fun, we want to enjoy ourselves. But because they know, if I can get this person really entertained, at the same time, I can slip in certain messaging and suggest certain things to them. Okay? So, not even talking about what we've talked about before about, oh, we get these good feelings, and you get a good feeling and you want to reciprocate it. I want my kids to have those feelings that I had as a child that made me feel good. So we reciprocate. We take them to watch the same movies. This is why remakes make so much money, because the parents have watched it, they have those good memories, and they want to go back and relive it. And in the kids' film scenario, you want to go back and relive it, and you want to go and relive it um, with your child. Okay, so I was watching this video the other day from this guy. He's got a Christian channel. I believe it's the 10-minute Bible hour, okay, or something along those lines. And he was talking about the Lion King, and he's basically saying that it's interesting how he watched the Lion King. He watched this movie, and he's basically saying he remembers watching it as a kid, feeling like Simba. And now that he's a parent, he took his child's kids to watch it, if I remember correctly. He can now understand this from Mufasa's standpoint, the parent standpoint, and it gives you different perspective. So the point I'm trying to make is, we're watching these movies. We're not even necessarily even talking about just that impact, just the feel good factor. We're talking about as well the subliminal messages that go under. Okay, so your kids will be singing these songs, inaccurate Bible doctrine, and that will be going into their mind. But in their mind, they're not thinking about what they're singing. Kids, we sing songs as kids. We're just singing the song because it sounds good, which is really vital to the music industry. And then on top of it, we just sing catchy things. Kids love catchy. If you watch a lot of kids stuff, it's always catchy stuff because it's memorable. Okay, so kids will be singing this song. They're not going to be thinking, oh, they're not going to be thinking consciously, um, we're bigger than Bible verses. We are the living word. We're going to be thinking, we're bigger, we're bigger, we're bigger, we're bigger, we're bigger. That's what we're going to be thinking consciously. But subconsciously, these lyrics are going into our deeper corridors of our minds and suggesting things to us and just waiting and sprouting out and growing for a later date in the future where, let's say for example, Beyonce comes out with another album, and because a child has listened to this album as a child, they now want Beyonce's other album, which isn't as toned down, so to speak, as this, but it's more graphic, it's more sensual, it's all of this different stuff, and it's drawing you in through this subtle stuff just from one little kids movie. Okay, so again, we can go into even more and loads of detail about loads of this stuff in more detail, but again, we have to move on into other stuff. So we've talked a lot about some movies. Okay, let's proceed to some TV shows. Okay, what are some of the most watched TV shows? We covered some of the most gross, some of the biggest sellers this year in regards to films. Okay, this shouldn't be a surprise, but generally every year they say that the Super Bowl. Okay, I'm big into watching sports. I like sports a lot, so I've heard this before. Just every year you hear this. The Super Bowl is the biggest event of the year. Okay, the most watched event. Now, how watched is this? Well, I believe this was the numbers from last year or maybe 2 years ago, and these numbers generally increase. But 103.4, million views. Okay, this is this isn't this isn't something that's like, for example, is watched weekly. This is something at a set time, at a set date, at a set location. Okay, every year the location may change, but it's a set location, and 100 million people turned on their TV or went to the website, whatever, however they consumed it, went on their phone and watched this event. 100 million people, okay, watch this event. Now, why is this significant? Well, the basic significance of this, or just even before we get into that, the basics of this is it's a football game. Okay, I like watching NFL, American football. Okay, it's not my most favorite sport, but I do like watching it. I don't watch it as much as I used to. There was a period where it was nearly becoming my favorite sport to watch, but I kind of just drifted away and went into basketball again. Okay, I like watching the NBA, watching basketball as well, but we're not even going to talk about basketball in this show. But this all this stuff applies across the board. But we're dealing with these big events, the biggest of the biggest. Okay, the best of the best. So 100 million people watch this. Why is this significant? This is significant because as a business, if 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 you know as a business owner that 100 million people are going to tune into something, you can say, well, I want to put my advertisement in front of 100 million people. This is the biggest event, and if this is the biggest event, if they can see an advertisement from me about my business, how many people out of those 100 million may now learn about my business, learn about my brand, or may be reconfirmed about my brand and now make a buying decision? Potentially millions. This is why, if you don't know, an advertisement costs 5 million. Okay, it costs $5 million to run an ad on the Super Bowl. Now, we're not talking about like a 2 minute ad. We're talking about a 30-second ad. And every single year, Super Bowl time, you get the whole craze of, oh, I wonder what ad's gonna come out. What everyone, all of these businesses try and go into their their toolbox basically and try and bring out something witty. They want to bring something entertaining. But why entertaining? Because it'll be memorable. Yeah, watching this football game, but the bigger story behind all this stuff is the advertisement. Okay, so look, as a consumer, I'm not necessarily paying to be advertised to. I'm paying to watch, to have this fun that only this Super Bowl can give me, this game. But at the same time, I'm paying my money to the stadium to pay for a ticket, or I'm paying to my TV subscription or my streaming, whatever it is. I'm paying for that entertainment. But at the same time, because I'm paying for that entertainment, I'm also paying for the opportunity for people to advertise to me. Okay, and they can advertise to me a plethora of things, a multitude, loads of different things, many different things they can advertise to me. Okay, so that's something to consider. So not only advertisements, what else do we have? Every single year, we have a halftime show. We talked about Beyonce a minute ago in regards to The Lion King. She's done a halftime show before. It's typically going to be a really popular musician, okay, that's going to have a halftime. That's going to have the halftime show. Why is that significant? Well, we've talked about Beyonce as well, so I don't want to belabor this point as well. You kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about. But that popular musician, every 100 million people are watching this. This is now an opportunity for at least up to 100 million people to get to be made aware of this musician basically, and who knows what kind of music she's gonna have or he's gonna have, but likelihood it's not gonna be Jesus is Lord, come and get saved. It's generally not gonna be that. Okay, it's gonna be from a popular musician today that's probably in the secular world that has a lot of secular views at the bare minimum. Okay, the worst extreme can be someone that is way out on the deep end in straight attack of Christianity and God and all those different kind of things. And this is another channel for someone to suggest to you certain things. So that's something to consider as well. So that's two things we covered. So many people watching it. There's advertisements because so many people watching it. You've got the halftime show, okay, which is another layer of where people can influence you. You may not necessarily listen to some of these artists on a regular basis, but at this particular time, you might say, "Well, I'm watching the Super Bowl," so you just watch it, or it's on in the background as you go and I don't know, get some snacks or whatever while you're watching the Super Bowl. Okay, and there's generally going to be some huge performance, and I've watched some of these kind of like responses to these performances before, from like a critical evaluation kind of standpoint. Okay, generally people are like, "Oh, this performance was great," or "The performance was bad." That's generally what happens with these performances. If you watch a Super Bowl, in the aftermath of a Super Bowl, you're gonna have people say, "Oh, it was great performance," "It was terrible." Okay, that's how it kind of cuts out. But when I recommend, and I definitely urge you to go and search out for some of these different things where people have actually kind of put a microscope on somebody's things and said, "Okay, look, this performance was going on, but look at the subliminal messages that were going into your brain. Okay, look at what they were doing here, look what they were doing there, etc." And you're like, "Wow, I didn't know that." Something powerful to know. The third thing we could talk about is the violence. Okay, the NFL is a violent sport. Okay, people are tackling each other, grappling each other, throwing each other to the ground, etc. It's a violent sport. That's the third thing that this is highlighting: violence. Okay, I'm not saying this like this is people killing each other or anything like that. I don't want you to think that, but it's a strong form of violence nonetheless. So that's another thing for you to consider as well. Like again, sports is something that loads of people watch, and as an adult, you might say to yourself, "Well, it's only sports. I'll let my kids watch it. It gives me good memories. I've had good memories. I want my kids to have these memories." The same thing we were talking about before. Okay, same kind of setup, same kind of theme, same sort of just scenario. So you think about it from that standpoint, and you can understand how this all links together. Okay, a lot of these things are things that all people watch, and we'll let our kids watch all these different kind of stuff. It's just that simple. Okay, so that's the NFL. Let's get into some other stuff which I think is actually really interesting as well. What do we have next? Okay, now this basically what I did is I went to do research about some of these TV shows, and these aren't necessarily going to be the top. I believe this is one of the top ones. The Super Bowl is definitely the top one, but there may be a little bit of ambiguity about some of these TV shows that we're going to get into. But generally, these were some of the things that continually came up across the board. Okay, now what you can see here, this is a TV show called The Big Bang Theory. Now, I believe this show, if I remember correctly, this show just came to an end recently. There's been a spin-off based on the main character. I believe he's the guy in the middle, in the blue. I saw that I think they're going into their second season of that show. I think it's called or whatever in it, but I believe there's been a spin-off anyway. But was a really and is a popular show. This is called The Big Bang Theory. Now, this is watched on average by 18.6 million people. Okay, so it's nowhere near the Super Bowl, but on average, every week that an episode comes out, okay, 18 million people watch it. Now, if this is one of or the most popular TV show, okay, think about this. Put your Christian glasses on, okay, your Christian lenses, your eyes of discernment, and think about why would a show called The Big Bang Theory be so popular in today's day and age, okay, and what kind of impact could that have? Well, the first things first is the show title was called The Big Bang Theory. Now, as a Christian, okay, looking at the Bible, reading through Genesis, it's, in my opinion, hard, if not impossible, okay, to read through the book of Genesis and now walk away from reading the book of Genesis and say the world started with a big bang. Okay, we'll just go surface level. Okay, almost impossible to read Genesis and walk away with that. If you gave the book of Genesis to a young child about, let's say, 8-9 years old, and you said, look, just read the first few pages, and then you came back and asked them and you said, how does this book say the earth was created? Would they tell you, oh, it was some explosion, or however any science person is going to reference the Big Bang? No, they would say something along the lines of, oh, well, there's a person that's called God or named God or whatever, his name's God, and he seemed to say he seemed to say he seemed to create the world. He seemed to say, look, I want this, and it happened. And at the end of a couple of days, end of a week, the earth was there. That's what the book says. Okay, basic level. Okay, simple. So the title, from the get-go, is in blatant contradiction to what you're supposed to believe as a Christian. Now, I fully understand and fully know that there are sects, different people in different Christian communities, different Christian denominations that tie in the Big Bang Theory into Genesis. Okay, I don't personally agree with that. That's not my stance. But there are loads of people. Let me say loads. Okay, I don't know the exact figures, but there are people that believe those kind of things. Okay, so it's out there. Now, I didn't watch The Big Bang Theory, full disclosure. I know someone in close proximity, okay, who used to watch The Big Bang Theory. So, because of that, there were times where I may catch certain parts of the show. Okay, it wasn't my wife that watched Big Bang Theory, just for the record. I was just going as far as to say that. Okay, but close proximity to this. Didn't watch it personally. Every now and again, you know, if someone's watching something that you spend a lot of time with, one way or another, certain things you might hear, certain things, etc. Okay, so full disclosure, loads of humor, loads and loads of humor. What I basically did is, just to give you some more disclosure into this, yesterday or 2 days ago, I basically watched I went on YouTube. I watched 2 videos. I believe it was like a season 1 summary, and like a part 1 and 2, and it was basically just summarizing different things that happened in the first season of The Big Bang Theory. Okay, and there's loads of humor. Even before we get into that, though, okay, the big topic in this show, we've talked about it already, but I want to specifically outline it, is evolution. Okay, the only thing I want to mention about evolution beyond this point really is excuse me, the title of the show is called Big Bang Theory. I mentioned that already. The second thing is the opening intro to the show, okay, gives you a rundown of the theory behind evolution. Millions of years ago, this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this, and this. We evolved and evolved and evolved and evolved and evolved until however long, 100 years ago, 100,000 years ago, whatever, we became human. Men became humans or whatever. However you want to explain it, but the intro to the show basically breaks this down. So every single week, 18 million people are probably singing along, whether consciously. A lot of them are probably doing it consciously, but at least subconsciously, this guy in his head and they're singing that millions and billions of years ago, this is what happened. Okay. And consciously, well, it's just the Big Bang Theory. This is just a TV show I'm watching for amusement, entertainment. Okay. Remember the definitions. Okay. But subconsciously, these things are ingrained into our mind. If we continue watching these kind of things, down the line, if you turn around and you start saying, well, I don't believe, like, God couldn't have created the world in 6 days because we've been here for billions of years. You wouldn't get that from the Bible per se. You'd be getting that from stuff like the Big Bang Theory and other things that have been suggesting these things to you every single week. I don't know what time it came on, but let's say, for example, every week on a Wednesday. Every week on a Wednesday, you're singing that song. Even in like future foreshadowing it, you're thinking about the TV. Oh, last week's show was so funny. You're thinking about the show. That is all replaying in your mind. Okay, even if it's not consciously, subconsciously, deep under the iceberg. Okay, underwater, these things are running around in your head, etc. Okay, evolution. So again, I mentioned this before. I'll get into more detail now. Loads of humor. Okay, the funny thing about it is, I watched, like I said, I watched this part 1 and part 2 of the summary of the season 1, about 5 minutes a piece, if I remember correctly, and a lot of, to me personally, there's a lot of dry humor, okay, but the way it's set up, okay, is because the characters are really good actors, okay, the main guy, and then I guess his friend, I guess it's the other guy on the sofa with him, okay, and then you've got the typical blonde, stereotypical, okay, portrayal of women in that show as well. Okay, it makes sense. They're the three people on the front, on the sofa in the front. These are on the forefront. These are the people that they want you to see. Okay, and then you've got the Asian guy that is in the show as well, and he's a stereotypical. They've got loads of stereotypes in this show. Okay, which is another kind of thing we can maybe talk about another day if we ever go back into this stuff in more deeper level and break some of this stuff down even more. But a lot of the humor is dry. But because the characters are such good actors and the way they portray things, that in itself can make you laugh sometimes. That's the way they do things, or the way they say things. It's not necessarily what they say, but it's how they do it. It's the delivery. Okay. If you've ever heard someone tell a joke and the joke wasn't the funniest, but the way they delivered the joke, okay, they may have moved in a certain way or spoke at a certain tone or said things a certain way, and it makes you laugh. Okay, the full package makes you laugh. But there's a lot of humor. There's certain times where in this like breakdown, where I'm watching it, I'm like, that's not funny. But what they're doing is funny, so you kind of find yourself chuckling. So I don't want you to think I'm saying this like, you know what, this stuff isn't funny. It is funny. Because at the end of the day, remember, the exchange is entertain me, please. And the exchange from them is, okay, we'll entertain you, but you give us money. And not only are you going to give us money, you're going to give us your mind, and now we're going to insert things that we want to. Why would they do that? Because the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay, if they know that they can entertain you and then give you their messaging, if they can give you their messaging, what's that gonna do? That's gonna make you come back for more and more and more. Okay, and that's what it comes down to. They want us to be enslaved. They want us to be addicted, okay, to what they have. So we continue to come back, and as we continue to come back, they're slowly, subtly giving you other things underneath. Excuse me, to entertain you. Okay, so there's loads of humor. But what does that humor mask? What are the undertones that go in with that humor? Okay, so conscious humor. They're making us laugh. They're making us feel good. But what's happening down here on the below the surface, which the conscious mind might not necessarily understand or think about? Okay, Some of the things I just picked up from this little summary is the humor hides stuff like fornication. Okay, the Bible's against um, premarital sexual relationships, but they sprinkle that in all the way through that show. Okay, I can pick it up just from watching that summary and from just the little parts that I may have heard or seen vicariously previously. They sprinkle in nudity. Okay, loads of body is shown from females generally. Okay, again, I referenced previously the stereotypical blonde. Okay, you've got why? Let's get more specific to Christianity or religion. You've got inappropriate lines and mockery of religious practices. In one of these clips, there's a clip where they're basically praying, basically, and some of the things they're praying for are inappropriate, things that wouldn't line up with what the Bible says. Most probably any kind of religion out there that has prayer as some sort of like serious thing. So they're mocking people's beliefs. Okay, and as a Christian, if I'm watching that and I'm watching someone mock praying to God, how should that make you feel? But because it's so funny, we kind of just, oh well, it's not serious anyway. Okay, that's how powerful being entertained can be, and they know that. That's why they continue to have these things in there subtly. Okay, everyone. I don't necessarily consider this as like blasphemy, but people will say this all the time. Oh, or take. Or sorry, I misspoke. I don't necessarily see this as what the Bible's referencing as taking the Lord's name in vain. Okay, as just using His name as a cuss word. I believe it's deeper than that. I believe it's saying you're for Him, but not really being for Him. Taking His name, so you're taking His name in vain. You say, "Oh, I'm for Him," but I'm really not. Okay. Take saying, "Oh, OMG" or something along those lines. That adds to me, that's surface level. It gets worse when you say you are living this lifestyle but you're really not. So you're taking His name in vain but you're really not about His business. Okay, so that's something to consider. Loads of humor, but the subtle tones are beneath this. So that's something to consider. We'll get into another one which is really powerful. This is another popular one. Okay, GOT, Game of Thrones. Now, this is a really interesting one. I didn't watch The Big Bang Theory. In regards to Game of Thrones, I basically missed the wave, so to speak. And generally, what is my custom? If I miss a wave, everyone starts talking about, oh, this show's great, this show's great. If I don't like to watch stuff when that happens because now I feel like I'm going to watch it and it's not going to feel the same. So for years and years, I'd kind of said to myself, I'm gonna watch Game of Thrones at some point. Me and my wife even talked about this probably about a year ago. Yeah, when are we gonna watch Game of Thrones, etc. Never really watched Game of Thrones. I've heard people talk about Game of Thrones, etc. But one thing you'll know, especially if you watch Game of Thrones, you probably know even better than me. This is a really graphic show. To give you some numbers, about 17 million viewers on average watch this show. Some of the data I even found even suggest that this is the most popular TV show. Okay, over the last, and I didn't mention this before. This is basically over the last year or two. Okay, so this is 2018 to 2019. Maybe some of early 2018, maybe late 2017 as well might be sprinkled into this. But this is something that's really powerful because Game of Thrones is really popular. Loads of graphic scenes. Some of the things, and I tried to find some stuff on this. I watched like a season 1 recap on this from YouTube as well, and I did some other research as well. And from some people that have spoken to me about Game of Thrones and encouraged me to watch it at different times. It's graphic. There's death, apparently, loads of death. There's loads of incest, apparently. Okay, and there's loads of just sexual relations and stuff like that. So it's a really graphic thing. Loads of all this like sensual stuff, which is only going to take you down one path anyway. but that's just something to consider anyway. I don't want to spend much time on Game of Thrones and some of the other things because I want us to move on to other things. I don't want to keep here just for loads of time. Okay, but you get the gist of what I'm talking about. Okay, but Game of Thrones is another popular show, loads of this other different stuff, and as they're entertaining you with all of this different stuff, again they're subtly sprinkling in the incest and um, the the sexual intercourse and the lust and the gory death and all this different kind of stuff, all these different kind of things. And that one we looked at, we could see this is a show. I'm not going to talk about this at all, really, just apart from giving you some of the basic figures. This is us. Okay, this is 17.44 million viewers on average per episode. So every week, 17 million people are tuning in. This show, I believe my wife had watched some of this previously, and I asked her a couple of questions about this. So what was the show about? Like, what's the breakdown of the show? I did a bit of research into it to get some context. Generally, I was getting the context that, okay, the show is about this couple that had triplets. At birth, one of those babies died, so they decided to adopt an African American child that was born on the same day, I believe, in the same hospital or something along those lines. And then the African American adopted child has got issues because his dad left him, and the daughter's obese and she's going through that problem, and the guy is just dealing with self-worth, but they're all working things out. And it's I from what I got from her and some of the researchers, it's kind of like this is like just the everyday kind of, it's just life, just everyday kind of struggles and problems with different people, etc. Well, I haven't watched it, but just everyday scenarios isn't people having triplets. That's the first thing. Second thing is everyday scenario isn't having triplets and one of those babies dying. One of the everyday scenario isn't having triplets and then adopting an African American, etc. Loads of stereotypes in this as well, it seems. But I asked one of the questions I remember asking my wife is, okay, it seems like there's a lot of bad stuff like going on. Okay, what's good about it? Like, what's like when I say what's good about it, I meant like what good happens in the show. And she was saying to me, okay, the guy, he gets married, he meets his father, that abandoned him. The obese woman meets someone who she tries to lose some weight, etc. The other son, gets like some prominent role in some movie or something like that. So there are some big things, but I did just kind of feel like it was just a show about everyday stuff, but loads, like just so much negative stuff's happening. Okay, that's what it seems like to me. Maybe if you watch this more, maybe my wife even has a better view on this as well, since she's watched some of these episodes before. But This Is Us. Okay. Now we've talked about movies, we've talked about TV shows. Again, dive deeper into all of this different stuff, especially as a Christian. Don't be deceived. Be aware of these things and look into them, okay, and see for yourself. But next, we're going to look at some games. Okay, we're going to look at some of the most sold games in 2019, similar to how we did with the movies. We're going to look at the games, and you're going to notice something really interesting here. Okay, so generally speaking, kids are the ones that are playing games. I would know. I used to be an avid gamer. Okay, and we're really talking about 10 years ago, 9 years ago. Okay, when I was avid gaming. I've been interested and been really good at games from a very young age. And when I say good, I mean really good. Now, I'm not trying to like amplify how good I was at games. Anyone who kind of knows me knows how good I was at games. We're talking like top thousands in some different games. Okay, and this wasn't even me like playing every day as much as I wanted to, but I was playing loads. Okay, just for some personal insights. Okay, so this is a top 10. You've got loads of different games, but notice there's something similar. Anyway, let me read the game. So you've got Mortal Kombat, you've got Kingdom Hearts, you've got The Division 2, you've got Anthem, you've got Resident Evil, Super Smash Brothers, and the list goes on. Okay, but what do we see? We see several games that have reference back to games and films that have been made previously. We've got sports, which makes sense because we've talked about the Super Bowl. Okay, if the Super Bowl is the most watched thing, it's no surprise that you've got an NFL game in the top 10. Okay, that just makes sense. Sports games are in there. Sports are general games that loads of people can watch and play. We've got references to popular movies that have been converted into games. We've got sort of spin-off games that are really made off certain films and certain TV shows that are hot popular. Like for example, The Walking Dead is another popular show that I kept seeing come up. For disclosure, me and my wife watched multiple seasons of The Walking Dead. Okay, just for reference as well. Um, we don't watch it anymore, but Days Gone, I know, is a very similar kind of survival kind of game. But what you'll notice is, okay, you should notice is six. Okay, so you're talking about 60% of these games are violent games. Okay, that's one thing for you to consider. 60%. So the majority of those games that have been sold, the best-selling games this year are violent games. And we also know that the majority of people really that play games, that are really avid about gaming, are children. Okay, so think about this, kids. If we're letting our kids play these games, the majority of the games that your kids are probably going to be asking for are going to be games of violence. Okay, and when I mean violence, I don't mean like we're talking about probably something like NFL. Probably be some of the least violent stuff you'll see. We're talking about killing. We're talking about like chopping people's heads off. There's probably some graphic storyline, probably with like rape and incest and really graphic stuff. But kids, okay, our kids are potentially playing these kind of games. Okay, when they start turning around thinking about doing certain things or saying certain things, these are some of the places that we're getting entertained, okay, on the surface level, but deep down we're getting integrated, we're being influenced with these certain things. So that's something to consider. Okay, so 6 out of 10 of them are violent games. And what round sports and kids games round out the top 10? So think back to the movies. Okay, what was the correlation? We had the violent superhero games, and then the other ones were like kids. So we're always going to be dealing with a lot of these things that are widespread because we can get widespread appeal. So you're going to get the sports games that loads of people are viewing, but then you're going to get these violent games like Mortal Kombat. Okay, I used to play Mortal Kombat as a child. Very really graphic. You're fighting, and then at the end, what do? The famous thing, you do your fatality, which is basically where you do your special move, the special way to kill the opponent, and it's normally going to be some graphic, really graphic thing. And why is this significant? Not only, okay, forget the entertainment. The reason this is significant is because if a child grows up, okay, let's say for example a 10-year-old, 12-year-old playing these games, as they get older, now what are they going to watch? If this is the thing that's been entertaining them as a young child, when they get older, they're going to continue to search in a lot of cases for these same kind of things to entertain them as an adult, as an older child, as an older teenager, as a young adult, as an older adult, because this is what they found enjoyment from previously. So that will take them into the adult films, as in the superhero films, the 18s, whatever, which is more graphic stuff. It's going to be stuff they're familiar with. And they'll be more desensitized to this kind of stuff. And this is what you need to understand. This is something I always tell my wife, okay? Don't just think about what's actually going on right now in the moment in regards to kids, okay? A lot of the things that's happening now, they're seeds that we're allowing or we're planting in our children that you'll see blossom and flourish in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You'll see the fruit of your labor, whether it was positive or whether it was negative, okay? So a lot of these games the kids are going to be playing them, and as they get older, they'll continue down that route, okay, and they'll go off, etc. Then you think about some of these games, we've talked about them already. Mass appeal across the board. You hear people fighting, getting angry, not focusing because they want to play these games, and that in itself is crazy. And we're going to look at an article in a second, or some of our article, which kind of deals with some of this stuff as well. Okay, some really powerful stuff. But these are the top 10 games, and this is some of the crazy stuff that's actually going on inside these games. Okay, so what we can look at next as well. Let's excuse me. Let's all right. These are some of the games. That's a different view. And then let's move to this article. Now, this was a really interesting article because it gives you some sort of additional context. But what it basically says is, I'll read the headline and we'll discuss some of the stuff. So, this was from a year ago, okay? And again, this is from the Daily Mail. I'm not saying this like this is gospel or anything like that. And it was from a year ago. And do more research, okay? Well, this is just one article I found, and it basically says parents voice concerns about sexual imagery and violence in video games. As the study reveals, children play 15 hours a week, and in brackets says, yet almost half let kids access content above their age rating. So we've talked about this before. This is why I was making the point about kids playing older games than their age. And I'm not just basing this on articles. I've got personal experience because I used to do this. Okay, I've got older brothers, but I'd play games with my older brother. He's playing a certain age game. I'd play the game with him. I'd be right there watching him play the game. When he's finished, if he allowed me, or if I want to do it, I'll play those games as well. Okay, so this is something I know that happens because I've lived it myself, and it's probably even worse today than it was years and years ago. Okay, look what it says. It says it found that 94% of parents are concerned about risks playing video games, and it talks about they discovered an average children play video games at 15 hours a week. That's about 2 hours a day. Okay, just on average. And then over 60% say play games where they directly interact with other players, and that more than 70% of parents are worried about violence and sexual imagery. So it's just recounting the last bullet point, the headline. Now this is the part, the actual text is what I wanted to kind of highlight as well, which I thought was really powerful. What does it say? It says, a new study has revealed that children play video games. Okay, read that a couple of times. We go on. The research from McAfee also found that a stunning 94% of parents are concerned. Okay, read that already. But this was the key part. But nearly half of parents let their children play games that are above the age rating, and it goes on. On average, children play about 2.13 hours a day, and they play at least an hour of games a day. And this is the really important part here again. Okay, 8% admitted that they let their children play more than 5 hours a day. This is true. Why do I know this? For a fact, because I used to do this as a child at my worst. Okay, and when I say my worst, I'm talking about when I was about 16, about 15, 16. Okay, I was playing computer games 9 hours a day, easy. When I had the opportunity, 9 hours easy. It got so serious for me. Okay, this is what I did. And you can see how, if I was actually even more serious about this, how it could have been even worse. But what I basically did is this. Okay, I used to play the game. I'd wake up, let's say for example, just a standard day, I start playing at 9-10 a.m. Okay, I'd play all the way into the evening. Okay, with my friends, my actual real life friends, people that I go to school with, all that different kind of stuff, college, whatever it was. And then I'll be playing into the night, 11, maybe stop if my dad's like, okay, come and eat dinner or something along those lines. As soon as I finish, wait a little bit, maybe he goes upstairs or whatever, I'll jump back on the computer, playing. Get to about 10, 11, 12. As it sprinkles out later and later, your friends drop off. They've got to go sleep, they go bed, they're tired, their parents cut them off. I know. I remember I had one friend, like he's playing with us, but I believe his mom was always on him. Turn it off, don't play, etc. And he wouldn't be able to play late into the night with us. He'd have to go early. Sometimes he'd go days and weeks without playing because his mom wouldn't let him play. But as time sprinkles on, people would drop off and drift away and go out. So this had happened to me over and over again. I'm playing with my friends, having fun, doing good. All of a sudden, everyone's gone at a certain point and I've got no one to play with. So you know what I did? I basically formed this American team, okay, of players, people that I had formed friendships with in America, so that when my UK people went I now went to my American team. I started playing them all the way through the night. So there was certain period of times that I may be going to bed at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., sleeping for a couple of hours, waking up at 8, 9 a.m., having breakfast, and then starting at 10 a.m. with my UK friends. And a lot of the time, I remember this. A lot of times, my UK friends will wake up and be like, "Oh, you ready to play?" I'll be like, "Yeah." And then they'll be like, "Oh, what time did you go to bed?" I haven't gone to bed yet. I'm still playing. I linked up with my American unit, played with them. Now I'm back with you. I'll probably sleep for a couple of hours, probably go and buy some food from the takeout shop to just save time, and then I'll be back. Okay? So this is the kind of stuff you can see and the kind of mindset it can take you just because of enjoyment. But we're playing some of the most graphic games. 18 games, I'm 15, 14, 15, 16 playing. Technically, really, we shouldn't be playing these games, but I'm playing them, and not only playing them 30 minutes, 1 hour, we're playing them throughout the day. So it's giving us mass enjoyment, loads and loads of enjoyment, but undertones are the violence behind it. Even explaining it now and just recounting some of this stuff, whenever I think about this stuff, I just thank God that He was able to bring me out of this stuff. Now, again, I mentioned this at the start of the show. I've still got a game console today. Okay. I've got a video that's coming out at some point in the future in a couple of weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, okay? Because it's a video that kind of breaks this stuff down. Because I don't want you to, because of what I just said about God delivering me, I don't want you to think that this, as a Christian, it means you can't play computer games. I don't want you to think that, okay? Because that's not necessarily what I'm saying. But the video that's coming out in a couple of weeks is gonna break down like the first 3 years of my salvation, and it's really vital in regards to what I'm talking about right now. It's really powerful. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, so when that video is released, you can actually watch it and you understand. You'll think back to this video, this live show, and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. But the fact of the matter is, playing, like, no one should be playing hours and hours and hours. If it's in a career, that's a whole another scenario. Okay, I'm not necessarily talking about people that do this as a career, but that's even another debate for another show, another video, another day, another time. Okay, but just the everyday person shouldn't be devoting that many hours to that entertainment. You have to have a life. You have other stuff to do, and this is what it kind of takes you away from. And this is just one thing. But imagine if you're playing this game for a few hours and you're watching this TV show for another couple of hours, or a couple of different TV shows for a couple of hours. You end up with a movie, but in between that, you've done all this different stuff. You're talking to your friends and your family about all these different things. It all adds up. It all adds up to mass entertainment, which, again, I said at the top of the show, being amused, being given enjoyment, having enjoyment isn't a bad thing by itself. But you have to be mindful and conscious of the fact that a lot of these things have hidden undertones under them, which are suggesting things to you, which are trying to influence you, certain things. We talked about The Bigger Song by Beyonce. We talked about the multiple biblical references in Avengers and all of the Marvel movies. We talked about the games and just the graphic, gory detail in them. We talked about some of the popular movies and TV shows and all these different kind of things that are suggesting things every single day in various different ways. And why are they doing this? This all comes back to this point on screen, okay? That this is a multiple $trillion a year investment, okay? These people are investing this money because the return is in the trillions. This is why there's always new TV shows coming out, why there's always new movies coming out, always new games coming out, there's always new media and entertainment coming out, okay? And it's largely coming from America. That's why they're the biggest in regards to revenue, because they are the leaders of this, but it's all coming out regularly. And the reason it's coming out is because, yes, they want to entertain you. That is the surface level, but don't just be a surface level Christian. Don't be a surface level individual, okay? Go below the water and see. Don't just look at the tip of the iceberg, because there's other stuff way beyond the enjoyment and the entertainment that they're doing and they're giving you, and a lot of it is negative. As a Christian, you'd probably say, if I walked up to you and said to you, as a Christian, do you see someone being redeemed through blood? Would you annotate that and have connotations with that as with a wicked person, an evil person? You wouldn't. Okay, but this is what the film was suggesting to you. Okay, if I said to you, okay, would you let your child, okay, watch someone chop someone's head off, okay, just all the time, every single day? You may say no, but these are the things that are in the games that people let their children play. Okay, if I said to you, you know what, some of the most unhealthy habits, alcohol, alcoholism, um, drug use, the most unhealthy foods. Okay, if I said to you, you know what, I want to just show your child some of the most unhealthy food in the world, would you let me do it? You'd probably say no. But in some of the things, a lot of the things they're watching, why is it those things that are always continually shown? Because they want you to think about these things, because as you think about these things, you'll do these things and you'll get closer and closer into their grasp. And once they've got you in their grasp, you're at their mercy ultimately. And this is what you have to consider. Okay, so I hope today's show has been really beneficial for you. And what I recommend you do next is watch this video, leave a comment below, and I'll see you on the next show. Thanks and take care.